Things nice when you got them bubbling. Things nice when you got them bubbling.
Okay. Thank you guys for joining me. So, as you know, we're here to talk about, I think what I'm calling this, thanks to you, appropriation versus appreciation. Start off we'll start ladies first. Joanna, if you want to just introduce yourself, who you are, and the country you represent, and just keep it simple. And then after that, Nigel, you can go and introduce yourself.
Okay, well, I'm Joanna, aka Miss Juve, and I am actually from DC. So I don't have any Caribbean background, but I do love soca and Caribbean culture. And I've been in the mix for a very long time now.
Did not know that. Okay, good info. Nigel?
Quick question. Before I give my intro, am I allowed to give a shameless plug for my new venture? All right, awesome. So my name is Nigel, also known as Hakimel on Instagram. I recently, I'm Trinidadian and Grenadian by way of Brooklyn. Recently launched my Caribbean condiment seasoning line, Saga Boy Seasonings. And yeah, I love the culture. Obviously, I'm from it, and it holds a near and dear place in my heart.
Didn't know that was you. Heard about it, but I didn't know that was you. Or did I know? I didn't know that.
Awesome.
Thank you. Okay, now I have something to talk about. All right. Okay, so this is good. So funny enough, we have someone who is not, who doesn't have island roots, but appreciates, right, the culture. And then, we have like you and I who have Caribbean backgrounds or whatever. So talk to me, I think, Nigel, you can go first. Talk to me about what your first reaction was when you watched the response, or you just watched the panel discussion that featured white chocolate.
Okay, I would say that my reaction initially watching first the sound bites, then afterwards the entire clip, I wasn't surprised, because if familiar with the sort of controversy around this figure, you know that this is not the first time that, such claims to the culture and sort of being thought of him branding himself as a waymaker. It's not the first time that this has happened. So it's not a surprise, but it just highlights, for me, it highlights a few things, particularly around the globalization of, West Indian culture. So obviously it's getting a lot more global. We're seeing a lot more crossover, which is great. And that's what everyone wants. But with that, we have, for those of us who are from the culture, as well as those who, participate, even if they're not from it, it comes with a sense of protecting the culture, meaning that not anyone can just take it and run with it and then call it their own. It also comes with the sense of, holding those accountable for those, who represent themselves as cultural figures, whether organically made or not. There's a sense of accountability, and being able to identify problematic behavior, being able to call out things when they need to be addressed. And I think that's what we've seen now in this case, with it sort of going viral across social media and people inputting, giving their takes. I think that, people have definitely held him accountable for his actions, and we're seeing the repercussions of it now.
Agree. Giovanni, you want to share your first reactions when you saw what you saw?
When I saw what I saw, I was like, whoa, the disrespect. That's the first thing that came to mind. I was like, how dare he? And the fact that he had spent time in St. Lucia, 2 years, I guess, for him to say something like that was just total disrespect to me. you know, in my opinion, towards the culture, towards everything. He's like, you think he would have more appreciation and love since he spent so much time in a different, you know, on the island of St. Lucia. For him to say that was like a slap in the face, honestly. So that's what I thought.
So I watched the clip, and in watching I think it was probably like a 60-second clip. While he said it, I watched the clip and I was dumbfounded for a minute. Then I watched it over. Then I watched everybody else's facial reaction on the stage towards his statement. And then probably about a couple days later, when I found the entire clip, I actually watched it. And I mean, no matter what he said before or after that, that little snippet summed up his entire presence on that stage. There's nothing else to come back from that. There's no way you can. I mean, like, there's, especially dealing with our culture and our people, you have to be very mindful in what you say and how you say it, especially dealing with West Indian people, because, you know, we will love you today and hate you tomorrow for the rest of your life.
So I saw people kept posting and I was just like, what is everybody talking about? What is this white chocolate thing? And you saw me post. I was like, somebody, and then I asked for the link in my stories and then I got a whole bunch of things. So one person sent me the entire thing on YouTube and I was like, oh, okay. So I think I went to follow Soca and I watched the little clip there. And then I was like, well, let me get some more context.
Okay.
And so when I watched it, and I watched the whole thing a couple of times, and each time you watch it, it just gets worse. Right? Because you're like, how did you miss all the cues? Like, how did you misread their facial expressions? Like, were you paying attention in the actual conversation at all? Because if I was him and I'm listening to what everyone else is saying about racism and about like the white privilege and all of that, I'm going to tame my words when it's time for me to speak. But it was just like, it just went over his head. I won't even say it went over his head. That people just don't understand the privilege that they have. Yeah, I think so. As I was watching it, because I watched the 16-minute joint. And so when he started to talk, I was just like my face was scrunched up the entire time trying to understand him. But then my first question was, how did this come about? Like, who asked you to be on this panel? Did you invite yourself? Like, I have so many questions because it's evident that the rest of the people that were on the panel were very much prepared. I don't know if they were prepared, but they articulated themselves so well, and he kind of just stuck out like a sore thumb. Yeah. And so it's like, I almost feel like, y'all set him up because you knew, like, y'all really set him up, because I just don't understand. You can see, like, there was a guy in the orange and he was just like totally like making all these faces.
Yeah, he was like,
no, don't say, like, nope, you're going in a bad zone. And like, then the girl that was sitting right next to him, I don't remember her name. She was going in and she was asking all like the right questions. Like, what is it that you do exactly? You know? And that is when it all started to go downhill. Yeah. So in addition to that, I'm like, you had a whole, like, 16 minutes have gone by already. And I have something on my eye. 16 minutes have gone by already. Like, you didn't read the room. You didn't read their faces. You didn't read, like, you didn't listen to the comments that they were making. And you still chose to say what you said. But then you find, like, the second posting that came out when someone found the joint that he wrote in February. Yeah. He's like, you know what? You can't even save yourself because this is actually how you feel. So you felt this way then, and now you're still feeling the same way.
When I first heard of it, so I first saw this individual on social media, Notting Hill Carnival last year with him lining on top of a bridge. And it was like, okay, I'm like, okay, white boy from St. Lucia. The thing about it is that anybody, like, we have to realize within the commercialization of carnival, anybody can pick up a flag and represent any country. So when I saw that, I was like, well, the Caribbean is very diverse. You will have you will have Caucasian people within the diaspora of the Caribbean. So I'm like, okay, I never really followed him on social media or gave him any thought after that. All I just saw was a white boy wedding, and I'm like, okay, he could dance. That was it. You know, after that, I saw some people posted him a couple other carnivals, and I was like, okay, he gets around. I didn't know that, he was that deep into it as an influencer, being paid to go to events. And it's like when something happens, you start doing your research. You start doing your research. Like, okay, I went to his Instagram page and I went back, I rewind, go to, all the previous posts, and I was just like, okay. But he's been doing this for a little while. But then when, we have our own private investigators in the UK, in the Caribbean, in the US, they started digging a little bit deeper and giving a little bit more context to who he is as an individual. Now, what he represents, but who he is as an individual. And I was like, okay, this is like a runaway train that nobody kind of like, foresaw coming, because you're given the privilege to partake in something that's so sacred to us as former as descendants of slaves. Because carnival, crop over, mashamani, carnival in different parts of the Caribbean means legitimately the same thing, but it's an expression of, like, for example, in Barbados, the name says it all, crop over. It's an expression of having a successful planting season, and people now come together to celebrate. Fast forward 50, 60, 70, 100 years, it's turned into something that's just generally commercialized. And like I said before, anybody can pick up a flag and rep any country, because I know firsthand that I know people that I will have because I'm born in Guyana. I grew up in Trinidad. I grew up in St. Lucia. I went to high school in Turks and Caicos. So I literally know the Caribbean like the back of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to a lot of the countries within the Caribbean, so I know. And I know people, like, I will have an extra guy in the flag, and it's like, oh, I want a flag, and I give them a flag, and it's like, oh no, I don't want that flag. I want a Trinity flag, or I want a Lucian flag, and I will be like, what is the difference? You are not from any of those places, so what is the hype of having a Trinity flag, or hype of having a Bajan flag or something like that? Oh, well, because Marshall Montana from Trinidad, you want a Trinidadian flag. Or because, Rihanna from Barbados, she go to crop over. You went to crop over one time, you fell in love with it, you want to rock a Bajan flag. And that's why I call it commercialization of it. Now, it gets to the point where we're losing the true meaning of it. And people just go to it for the fat and the parties and all of that, when in actual fact, when you look at us who go to Carnival, we know what we're going to Carnival for.
You highlighting the history, I spoke about it in the other session that we had about the topic, and I'm just like, not everybody that is from the Caribbean even knows the roots. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just, okay, well, I'm used to this thing. I know that it's a thing. I know that it's my culture. I'm just going to participate in it, but you don't know why. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know like why it was founded. A lot of people don't realize that crop over is about, is about harvesting, right? It's about the end of a harvest and all that. So I think if we have our people who don't know about it, then just imagine the people coming in. They definitely don't know about it. You're just going off of the hype. How did we get here, and who do you believe to be responsible for him to have this type of mentality and to have this type of like clout?
I think, honestly, it's our people. who've helped propel and help, I guess, maybe unintentionally, but I definitely think it's sort of a natural thing that has been propelled within our culture, just because you sort of see this at, whether it's at a fete, whether it's at a carnival, if there's someone who's not of the majority, so someone who's not of African descent participating in our, cultural activities, there always tends to be this idea that, because they're the one, we should sort of shine the light on them. And in this case, the light has been shined way too long, because it's definitely propelled a sense of false authority that he's claimed. It's definitely propelled a sense of, I don't know what you want to characterize it, but it's like this grandiose character. Like you say, here's what I've done, here's how they've helped me, and here's the culture that I can now claim, when he really has no ties to it. And I think that, we really need to hold ourselves accountable for this. Well, some of us, because I know for certain, I definitely have not propelled, so the one exception, like sort of gaining the spotlight. And I definitely think it's a call. It should be retrospective. So people should really assess their behaviors and see, like, how have I possibly contributed to this, and what can I do differently going forward? So I definitely think it's ingrown. I do think we need to hold ourselves accountable collectively. But I also do think that it's also on his end as well, because now he's gone around saying, like, I'm paving a way, I'm creating these platforms, when you've had so many people doing the work behind the scenes, but some have gotten the spotlight, some haven't, but regardless, they're doing the work, and he's not the first. There have been people who've owned this space authentically, so I blame him as well.
Honestly, I think we all have a little part to play in it. He was very arrogant when he was speaking, and I think his arrogance comes from the fact that he's just been so comfortable. Like, he sees these numbers that he's gotten, as far as his following, 160K. That's more than a lot of the big influencers that I've been following for years. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know he had that many followers. I don't know, I don't know how much of them are authentic, Soca carnival lovers, but still, that's a lot. And he transitioned that number into dollars and into deals and into partnerships with big brands and big bands. So I think we have a part to play in it. Him being flown out to these different carnivals and, all this type of stuff made him feel comfortable to say those type of things that he was saying, and and made it so it made him so arrogant in the fact that, like, I can say this because, I have the numbers to back it up. So honestly, like, even, we can all have our little parts to play in it, because we kind of put him up on this pedestal, and it shows within his numbers. Even that still surprises me that he has that many numbers of followers on Instagram, when, people like yourself and other big Soca influencers are not at that level. And that doesn't make any sense to me, because people like you are the go-to when it comes to Soca, like when it comes to carnival and wanting to know how to prepare and where to go and, these type of things. So it's like, how did he get all that? I don't understand. I really don't.
Yeah, I got my measly, I'm not even at 4,000 yet, and this dude is like shaming me. But it's essentially what it is that he's unorthodox. You know what I mean? Like, he's a for lack of a better term, like a unicorn, you know what I mean? Because not even, like, he's doing regular schmegular stuff, right? So I said recently, I'm like, if we were in Grenada, right, and he's all in black, you put a paper bag over his head, nobody would give him the time of day, you know what I mean? Because you would just be out here like a regular person whining. But because you're white, and he knows this, right? Because you're white, and the stereotype is that, white people don't have rhythm. White people can't dance the same way that we do, because that stereotype exists. Now we see you in St. Lucia, and you're doing better than we expected. You know what I mean? So you're standing out because you're this complexion, and we're not used to seeing that. And so people gravitate to that. And when he sees it, he's like, oh, okay, this is a thing. This can be a thing. But it's like, yeah, no, you're not paving the way for us. You're paving the way for your fellow white people. You know, that would have landed differently. Because like in my eyes, I'm like, we are the pavement. You know what I mean? Like you're not making a way for us. We're already there. And then people who are actually doing it for the culture, are already here. Like, where did you just came to, you're sucking off of us. You know what I mean?
I just think he's a real opportunist. Like I was saying, I did like a little live on Instagram the other day, and I was saying that I think he's that person that no matter what, like he just fell into a situation and it stuck and he just ran with it. So it could have been like, he could have went to some other place and got into the techno scene. And next, you know, he's a big techno person. Like, I don't think he's like, genuinely, authentically, because he loves carnival, he loves soca music. It's just something that fell into his lap and he ran with it, you know, and which I think a lot of us, even though, we're about getting our money and we're about, broadening our opportunities, it's still like a love in this, people who really love soca, love carnival, like we're passionate about it. We spend a lot of money to go to these carnivals, to participate, to play our mass, to go to fetes, to travel. So we see somebody who is doing something and it doesn't come from a genuine place, we feel, it's like, it doesn't sit right with us,
Yeah. You're not like Royal G and you're not like Inhale Me, who are actually teaching people how to do what they do, or at least try to do what they do. Where is the give back? Where is the community service in all of that? Like, what are you doing with the funds that you're making from, from all these brand ambassador sponsored situations that you're doing? So, yeah. Anyway, his whole white privilege was shining, and they don't. It baffles me when they don't understand what it means, right? To be a white person and understand what white privilege is. That is what it is. You are benefiting from this thing that we don't benefit from because again, because you're white, you stand out. But if we wanted to model for Jamaica or whoever, we have to go up against each other, and there's only going to be a limited selection. But again, because you stand out, you're automatically going to get that spot because you're white,
Yeah.
That was one of the most irresponsible, foolish, deftone statement that, and that I hear. And then another thing, like Amanda Seales, I don't always agree with her stance and some of the things she pushed, but she did say something that kind of like, she said it then, but I didn't understand it until now. She said, why do we invite certain people to the table? When she said it, I was just like, oh, okay, I get it, but I don't really understand it. But when he said what he said, I totally understand. I got it then. It gave me the context of what she was saying, because she was saying it in terms in a very emotional way, so I didn't take it to heart. But fast forward, I was just like, man, this chick was right. Why do we keep inviting certain people to the table and then they take that invitation and just flip it all the way up, and then we're left to, like, in a sense, pick up the pieces?
Yeah. Because I think a lot of us want to be loving, right? And we want to be good people, and we want to do the right thing. And so it's like, okay, well, let's, embrace this person with open arms. Let's not look at, X, Y, and Z. But this is a prime example of how that can kind of, it's like a slap in the face. Because for ages, right, we were not offered that. Right. And so now we have had to pave the way for ourselves. Right, to be in a certain place. And now that we have these things, it is going to be it's challenging for a lot of people to open that up, because it's like, no, we need this sacred space to ourselves, because this is legit all that we have. I think when, he speaks of quote unquote paving the way, I'm like, you definitely didn't pave the way for Blacks. You didn't pave the way for Caribbean people. Like Tiger was an example of somebody who paved the way, right? Because you infiltrated this sport that is looked at as being a sport for whites, right? And here you come as this Black man beasting, right, in the game. And so now you are legit paving the way because you have other Black boys, Black girls seeing, or people of color, I should say, right? Seeing that this thing is possible, that we don't have to be afraid of entering this space in this sport because someone else is not there. So representation matters. Like we're already here, right? Blacks, Caribbean, we're already here in the carnival space. We are represented. So what is our responsibility to the culture? How do we make sure that this doesn't happen?
I think it's a few things. One, I think people have this tendency when there's the other, like whether it's a white person, an Asian person, what have you, if they're one of few or the only one in like a fete or on the road, they see them doing things that, mimic our styles, they tend to like shine the light on them. I think we just got to stop that and let people just be. If they're appreciating the moment, let them appreciate the moment without shining the light on them. That's one thing. A second thing, and I saw this over the weekend, following, the calling out of this guy, someone posted another person who was of Caucasian descent, who's enjoyed the culture, who's very under the radar. They said, he's our original white chocolate. He's this person, like, this is the one we acknowledge. And I think that mentality needs to stop as well. That person didn't ask for it. Person's very under the radar. Like the mentality of finding that one exception to highlight, I just think it really needs to stop. And I think that's what creates the avenue for another situation like this to happen. So we have to be closely guarded and just like shift from the mentality of, shining the light to just letting people be. And I think that's critical. And I think also what worked really well in this case was, social media has played a part in not only making him accountable, but making entities associated with him accountable. So I saw, one large brand in St. Lucia put out a statement saying that, they're not affiliated with this guy and they're no longer doing business with him or what have you. So I think, continuing to keep the accountability thumb on social media, I think that's helpful for leveling the playing field and calling people out when they demonstrate problematic behavior.
Yeah, I'm just like, if this didn't happen, if he didn't say what he said, would y'all have still been working with him? You know what I mean? Like nobody thought about it before that. And I know that with COVID idleness and with all the tensions that are so high with Black Lives Matter movement and like just the fact that he verbalized it as opposed to typing it, I think like all of like, people have asked like, well, why now? Like, why are we upset now? And I'm like, well, these are the top few reasons in my opinion, because people ain't got nothing else to do. And it came out his mouth as opposed to him just writing it because people don't read. So whatever he wrote in February, everybody's just looking at the picture. Nobody's reading the caption, or they read the caption and it just flew over them. Right. And you're just too busy commenting about, oh, the wine was sweet. And this, I'm just like, anyway, Joanna, anything you want to add?
I just think that we should just pour into each other more, I definitely try to highlight people on my platform. So I just want to continue that. I think that's the best thing that we could do, instead of giving him shine, we kind of starve him, and put the attention back on the real influencers of this culture. And definitely, whichever way we can, point somebody out, highlight somebody, whether it's once a week or I try to do something every day. I'm, on my page, I'm trying to highlight different people every day. So that's my thing. I think everybody has a part to play in it. So that's what I decided to do. And hopefully
that'll gain people to, check out the real influencers, people who really matter.
Yeah, I think part of this too, it's, I've seen a number of posts as well, sort of re-highlighting again a lot of the work that other content creators have been doing for a number of years, and I think it's great. It's just this momentum of re-highlighting those within our community who've been doing it. It shouldn't just be a solution to a problematic issue. This should be something that's like norm behavior that's continual, that we're continuing to do. So I think hopefully this incident causes people to like refocus on those who've authentically been doing it and who've been doing it well.
Anybody can pick up a flag and run with it, but we as I call it, consumers who look to influencers to influence us in going to different carnivals and different events, we have to take that responsibility in challenging our influences to show who you are as a person. How do you fit into the culture? I don't want to hear that, oh well, my mom is this, and so that's your heritage. But you have to remember that if you're influencing somebody to do something, people are looking to you because of the experience that you bring. Like for you, for example, I've never heard of the Creole Festival in Dominica. So I know who you are. You show who you are and where you're from, and how you kind of like came to be. Most influencers don't do that. They will just go to an island and post photos if they're sponsored by a band or something, and that's it. There's no kind of like, because if you're going to your home island, I would expect you post up your family. I would expect you, that's the thing. If you say you are an influencer, when you go home, if say you're Trinidadian and you go home to Trinidad, I expect you, if you're from South, to go down South and say, this is where my family is from. Oh, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. This is where I came to be. This is what influenced my parents, and this is the same influence my parents passed on to me. This is where it came from. You can't tell me you an influencer from St. Lucia and all you do is post St. Lucia Carnival and nothing else. Not even like, okay, go down to see where your great grandfather used to live, or go visit a gravesite or something. Give us a little bit more of who you are. Don't just give us the plaster, because I know an influencer, all she does is post catalog photos. You think she here, but she here. You think she here, but she over here. Like, those are photos from her last trip that she's posting to keep it relevant. I look at stuff like that, because if I'm going to be looking to you to make me go somewhere, you need to show me who you are as an individual before who you are as an influencer. Like, now I really want to go to Dominica. I know how to get to Dominica because of that Dominica experience that you had. Not the whole going back to Barbados and coming back.
But say, don't take the boat. Do not take the boat. Go to Puerto Rico.
And now Caribbean Airlines started flying to Dominica, I think, from yesterday.
Okay.
Between Barbados and Dominica. So they're like, now they're more optimally at folding up and that whole nonsense that they got going on with that.
Mm-hmm.
So Caribbean Airlines. So when you look at stuff like that, influencers don't show us that. They don't show us who they are as a person or what influenced you to be an influencer in a space. And that is one thing that I think a lot of us will push for. We don't want to see the whole grand scheme of things. Like, show who you are as an individual and build on that as a brand.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're a brand. If your brand, your portfolio is so diverse, like, I don't even know where to start.
I feel
Yeah,
like it's a double-edged sword sometimes, though. Like, it's like a good thing and a bad thing because, you know, you have the people, like, you might appreciate it, but you have someone else that might be coming for something specific, but they don't always get that. So I'm working on it. So
yeah, because I mean, like, I just say this because it's the onus is on us, the consumer, to make sure that the people who are influencing us in something is authentic and they're not just in it for the money. Because you have every carnival, kid you not, every carnival over the last 2 years or 3 years, you have had influencers who represent a band, and then, you know, people, because they push the band, people start signing up and stuff like that. Come costume pickup day, this person get a costume, the costume half-ass. This the costumes ain't even made and ready. Makeup artist supposed to come, nobody came. So I'm saying, like, if you're an influencer, now you're responsible. You're the face of this situation. Now people looking to you for answers, and what do they usually do? They just delete their page. Especially if the contact is through Instagram, they will just delete that page, and now you're left with so many questions and no answers.
yeah. If you want to just let everybody know where to find you, if you want to be found, and we're gonna end.
Okay.
Joanna.
Well, thank you so much for having this little discussion. I appreciate it. I can be found on Instagram, of course, Miss Juve, and Twitter.
You could find me and my passion project, Saga Boy Seasonings, on Instagram. It's SAGABOY Seasonings, SEASONINGS, all one word. And yeah, that's where you'll be able to find my creative outlet.
Awesome. I'm going to follow right now. And probably going to order
seasoning.
some.
I just started shipping, so
yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, now we got to bring you back on so you can talk about the whole
yes,
the whole project.
I'm happy.
Right.
If anybody want to add me, they go add me.
All right.
They have a road by my home there, and that's not well. Every time carnival happening, they the truck passing. Now I have one question asking. Who that paving it?
Listen, I tried at first. I heard the news. Somebody tagged me to this interview, and I was like, oh my God, do I even want to read this right now? So upon further review and having a chance to really sit with how I felt about it, because I definitely was a fan of the wine, and I'm following him right now. Like, I know people are like, unfollow. I'm just like, yeah, I could. But if you can follow 50 Cent, I can follow White Chocolate. Here's what I feel about it. I can't join the hate train because we have had a very big part in this, right? And I'm pretty sure that there have been promoters, artists, all types of people on the carnival scene that have been in this man's ear, hyping him up for what their brothers was already doing around them. Talking about, you know, you could do this, you could do that. Because remember, carnival has always had a problem with colorism and honoring whiteness and always looking for the lightest, brightest. And we're always in awe when a white girl's whining, right? Psh. Listen, he was just stupid enough to open his mouth and actually say the words that the rest of them are probably thinking, like, yeah, I'm the shit, because we've told them they are. We got a huge hand in this.
I would first like to say that I have been warning you, all people, about this for years. We need to stop inviting people to the curry queue, not the barbecue, but the curry queue. And while I would like to support the dragging of White Chocolate, I would like all you West Indian people and people of the West Indian diaspora to hold up a mirror to yourselves, because you guys invited him and all of these other colonizers to the friggin' curry queue, and you have to stop doing this. Why can't we look at all of our own Indian, African, Chinese, West Indians and big them up? What's wrong with us? Love yourselves. Stop this.